We know that this initiative is about promoting Cape Town as a prime investment destination, but you also stated that Cape Town is not competing with other cities in South Africa, that we're not a separate entity. Tell us more.
Absolutely. Cape Town is a specialist city in South Africa. We don't compete with Johannesburg or Port Elizabeth or Durban. We need to see ourselves as very much part of the South African economy, where we complement Johannesburg. I'll give you an example. Vodacom have got a head office in Johannesburg, but they've got their R&D in Stellenbosch. That's part of Cape Town. We work together, we work symbiotic with the rest of the country. I think that's something we need to make sure we keep on doing.
But the Cape's economy does have unique opportunities when we cite the creative industries and also the potential of the oil and gas sector. That must be exciting for Accelerate Cape Town.
Absolutely. I work very closely with Warwick Blythe, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Oil and Gas Alliance. Now, there are tremendous oil and gas finds across the continent, up the Rift Valley, up the west coast, up the east coast. Cape Town is uniquely positioned to service that, and it's something we want to make sure we do. If I look at the creative space, film and media, we've got the best talent down here, and that's something that's tremendously exciting to me.
You spoke about Cape Town being the first wireless city of Africa and having full broadband penetration. That is something which is critical for economic growth going forward.
Sure.
How is the process going there?
I think it's going well. I met recently with members of the provincial government, and there is a process underway already. From a business side, we are absolutely keen on this. It is something that, as I've said in my earlier talk, would tip the scales. I know province is involved, I know the city is involved, and I know there's discussion about how to involve business. My comment to the mayor recently, my comment to province, is that business is ready to get engaged and to take that forward.
Let's take a look at Stellenbosch. They have a huge free Wi-Fi network, which they're rolling out in partnership with a private company, Mixit. Can we see something like that happening in Cape Town going forward?
Absolutely. My challenge to the mayor was exactly that. We can't let Stellenbosch trump us. Of course, Stellenbosch is part of Cape Town, and it's one of our... I don't see Accelerate Cape Town stopping at any municipal boundary. So Stellenbosch is very much part of us. But Cape Town as a city needs to be Africa's first ubiquitous broadband city, and the mayor is up for it. She took the challenge on very well, and I see that going forward.
Let's talk about all-inclusive growth, which is an ideal promoted by Accelerate Cape Town. South Africa does get criticized for the duality of its economy. That surely is a priority. Can you tell us about how Accelerate Cape Town is going to promote all-inclusive growth?
It's interesting that you ask that, because for me, and one of our goals right from when we were first established, the work that I was involved with 3 years ago on Vision 2030, the thing that came out of that is to have a growing, robust economy that includes all of the citizenry. And I liken it to a bit of a tide. A rising tide lifts all the ships. And that's something we need to focus on. I was in a conversation earlier today around taking what we do and making sure that it accelerates in Khayelitsha, making sure that it accelerates in areas that are traditionally underserviced. And as the Chief Executive Officer of Accelerate Cape Town, it's something that I'm passionate about.
What key elements do you cite there for employment creation in the marginalized communities? Are we talking about agro-processing, maybe in the creative industry? Where do you cite the opportunities?
I think there's a range of opportunities. I would almost look at it slightly differently and say, what are the things that our large corporates are looking at? Things like talent development, things like enterprise development. How do we make sure that we use large business to harness it with smaller businesses? How do we work together? You've mentioned connectivity earlier. How do we make sure that we are not just physically and virtually connected, but also socially connected? It's about creating a society that transcends that. And then, of course, we've spoken about Africa. Now, that's outside of Cape Town, but there are opportunities to service Africa from here.
Let's talk more about that investment with Africa. What opportunities do you cite, and what possible synergies can we get between Western Cape and investing in other parts of Africa?
Well, you know, I think one of the things that we need to look at is that we are fairly uniquely positioned. I like the concept of a living lab. I was recently in conversation with David de Waal, who's the Dutch Consul General here in Cape Town. And many organizations are wanting to exploit the emerging markets around the world. In Cape Town, you have excellent governance, you have excellent infrastructure, and of course, on your doorstep, you've got an emerging market. And being able to use that concept of a living lab in Cape Town to plant your business here and run it across Africa is unique.
We are dealing with these challenges on the forefront, but it seems that we have a huge problem in South Africa with retaining our skills. How do we ensure that, not just in Cape Town, but in the rest of the country, we retain our skills and they don't just go to Australia?
Well, of course, as you know, I've just returned from Australia. So I think that I'm an example of that. I believe very firmly South Africa is an open economy. In the same way as we're an open economy, people will move. It's healthy for people to move. It's healthy for our students to go and study around the world. It's healthy for business people to go and work around the world. But what I do think is that a compelling purpose and a compelling vision helps to attract and retain and grow and nurture talent. And Cape Town has a compelling purpose. We as Accelerate Cape Town want to grow the economy. That isn't, as you've alluded to earlier, it isn't just Cape Town, it's across the country. So having that compelling purpose and getting engaged with active citizenry is something that I think will bring people back, bring the diaspora back.
What's the next step for Accelerate Cape Town? Where do we go from here?
Well, I think what we need to do is build on the excellent foundation that's been laid. I think we need to look at a few things. I've mentioned the 4 key themes that I see our members talking about and that I've engaged with over the last few months. I would like to see us working with that, working with our Vision 2030 work, because it's a long-term journey, working with owning the relevant parts of the National Development Plan in the Cape Town City region and driving those out through our businesses to mobilize to achieve the goals that we've set for ourselves.